I think we are live. Let's see if this will let me go live. All right, let me get us hooked up on Instagram here. Just one moment, folks. Welcome to a Democrat and a Republican walk into a bar. Let me get us on Instagram. Hang on.
Well, while she's doing that, I am your host, Republican host Sean Hartman, and of course with our Democrat host Cindy Banyai with all the technicals. We are here at Ollie's.
Woo! We don't have the big crowd here today.
Not a big crowd today.
A couple folks. Just heard some people walk in. Don't know what's going on. But yeah, so we're going to get it. Let me get the live show. Because they make us do, Instagram's got live keys, all sorts of other stuff going on. I don't know. Makes me copy and paste this thing over here. I'm going to edit. I don't understand why Instagram has got to make it so much more complicated than everybody else. Don't know why.
We're just trying to be advanced and you already, if you need to change the stream key, remove this destination, then re-add it.
Oh, good. Thanks for reading that.
All of this is going to get cut with the podcast.
This is all going to get cut. So we're going to remove and then add. Oh, goodness gracious, everybody. Thanks for coming. I've been out in the sun today.
Yeah, I saw you were at some sort of nature thing with the Lehigh Democrat.
Well, no, I just happened to throw my nature shirt on. It wasn't explicitly nature event. I'm just always repping the environmental caucus. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. The president of the Lee County Democratic Environmental Caucus. Monitoring all the.
Are we live on Instagram?
We are live everywhere.
Okay, well, thank you. Welcome to Democrat and Republican Walk Into a Bar. Part 2.
Woo!
This is
haven't even started drinking yet.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this is the entrance that'll show up on the podcast, I'm sure. So, welcome to Democrat and Republican Walk Into a Bar. I am your Republican host, Sean Hartman.
I'm your Democratic host, Dr. Cindy Banyai,
and we are here at Ollie's.
Ollie's, which you should definitely come and check out if you haven't. Great live shows, great beer. I'm drinking a tangerine something or another.
I am having a mug root beer. I'm going with the sassafras today.
The sassafras. Hey, funny story about that. There's a really popular kind of sarsaparilla, the root beer in Taiwan called SARS. And I was living during the SARS outbreak, which by the way is the precursor to COVID. Yeah. It was a coronavirus. It was SARS-1. So this was actually the COVID virus.
SARS-CoV-1. Was it COVID? I thought it was SARS-CoV-2.
No, it was a coronavirus, but SARS. So anyway, yeah, whatever. We're the second one, the one that we got all hit with. But I got to do that twice in my life. Yep. And the funny thing was because it was called SARS, sudden acute respiratory syndrome, and there was this root beer drink that was really popular. People were freaking out and thinking that they get SARS from SARS.
Kind of like the whole Corona beer having a problem during the coronavirus or anything named ISIS during all of that. So always horrible when world events affect your branding.
Totally bummer. Okay. So here we are at Ollie's. Oh, but we were talking. So Ollie's is had announced that they're not renewing their lease. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do. In the meantime, definitely support this Southwest Florida amazing venue. Bring friends out. They have different events during the week. Might only be here through the next month.
Yeah, so we'll obviously be figuring out where we're going to next if we end up losing this spot. But we're going to keep going as long as we can. Definitely keep this show going, and then we'll figure it out from there. But hopefully we can find something. I know that there's some talks of people who want to keep this place open as is, and so we'll see if something like that works its way up. And we're just thankful for Ollie's for all he's done for us so far, and thankful for Sean for all he's done for us so far.
All right, good. So that is what's going on with our host location here. Let's jump into it. So what's burning you this week?
Well, obviously we had CPAC this week. As I like to call it, Conservative Comic-Con. It was honestly, I was kind of underwhelmed.
Super fun.
Yeah, it was. I didn't find it to be that special compared to other CPACs. Byron Donalds actually opened up the CPAC. He was the opening speaker, which was very interesting. We had a lot of basically all the VP people coming in and auditioning. Trump, of course, let out his names of the 6 people for the VP list. I think it's really a race between Tim Scott and Kristi Noem. It really depends on whether or not he thinks he needs to win the women vote, or if he looks at Tim Scott and think this guy is, very servile, very submissive. He will kiss the ring, and he is someone that he can groom into a future president and sort of be responsible for that. And so that's what I think he's looking at.
So you don't think Byron's up in the top?
I do not think Byron. Well, first off, again, the 12th Amendment to the Constitution.
Whatever, he has Ron DeSantis in there too.
Yeah, I know he has Ron DeSantis in there too, but neither Ron DeSantis is stupid as well.
What makes you think Trump gives a shit what the Constitution says?
Of course, yeah, but that's the point. Is he's basically going to have to move back up to New York in order to do that.
No, here's the thing: he can put whoever the fuck he wants on.
It's fine, and we lose
VP.
They lose Florida's 30 electoral votes then. Unless he can reestablish residency in New York or somewhere.
I mean, he could. It's not that big of a deal. But
it is a big deal if he wants to win.
I don't think so. You don't think he could just run and have somebody as vice president and then it just is?
No,
and then they just go.
No, yes, in theory he could run with them and stay in Florida. But what will end up happening is he will not legally be able to get the 30 electoral votes from Florida. They cannot vote for him because of the 12th Amendment. And so that's a loss of 30 very important electoral votes that will probably go to Trump. And so I don't know, man. It would be dumb of him to choose either Byron or Ron DeSantis. I think.
What makes you think that Byron wouldn't just pack up and go? I've heard that actually Ron DeSantis doesn't even have a house outside of the governor's mansion here. So what would happen if we have a governor that doesn't live in the state?
This is an interesting conversation, but yeah, no, the one that I think is the most interesting name on the list is Tulsi Gabbard is actually on the short list for running mate, which I think would be an interesting choice as well. With her previous Democratic bona fides and sort of expanding the base.
Yeah, Democrats know that she's a fucking traitor, though. So
no,
doesn't matter.
It's not gonna win Democrat, but she won't win.
She's
Democrat
not fooling anybody.
But it's an it kind of plays to the walkaway movement. We had the walkaway person speaking at CPAC.
It's not a real thing.
It's somewhat not a real thing. Anyway.
Well, not a real thing. It's something that Republicans made up.
The main
not
thing
a real
that
thing.
I think that was the 2 things that really stood out to me with the CPAC was
just like the black conservatives, not a real thing.
No,
full of white people.
Oh my God,
that was the whole room was full of white people. They were trying to pan. They had a couple of folks, but there was all white people at the Black Conservative conference. It was also this past weekend, or maybe it was part of the CPAC.
I didn't see that.
Brouhaha.
That's interesting. I have not seen that, but anyway, we do have Black conservatives. They're not non-existent.
I mean, they're just not real, really real.
No, Byron Donalds is our congressman.
Yeah, but he doesn't give a shit. Actually, he just is climbing his own ladder. Actually, he was on Meet the Press this morning.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh, he had some real gems on Meet the Press this morning, actually. Let's see. He said that he supports IVF because it breeds great families.
Oh, or because of the Alabama egg thing? I don't even understand.
Breeds great families. That's what Byron Donald said on television. That's why he supports IVF, because they breed great families. By the way, do you know who most IVF recipients are?
No.
White. They're white. They're white people. And so the fact that Byron Donalds got in and said the word breed and IVF just really made some
that's a weird direction to go from IVF breeds great families.
Well, it was funny because he actually he choked on it too. He was breed great families. And then he's like, shit, did I just say that out loud? And he said it twice. But anyway, that was a good one. What else did he say? Oh, he basically said that he's going to shut down the government unless there's a border deal.
I heard that, yeah.
So here we go. All right.
This is frustrating. This is extremely frustrating because it's not good for the American people. Shutting down the government is not good for the American people, and we should have some sort of deal negotiation. The thing that I actually heard recently that I found most interesting about a potential deal. Well, first off, here's a few things. One is, from my understanding, there are appropriations bills that have gone to the Senate, at least 7 appropriations bills that should at least reduce the harm of the shutdown, and those should be passed. And quite frankly, we need to stop. I like the idea of having individual appropriations instead of a large super
instead of an omnibus.
Yeah, instead of an omnibus like we always
I think that's fine.
have. So I think that is the direction we are going to need to eventually go and need to start going into. Outside of that, though, again, it's not a good idea to shut down the government. It doesn't help the American people. And we had this deal for border security. Was it great? I don't think it was perfect. I don't think it was great. And I think there was a lot of work that could have been done with it, but it worked well enough. And we were letting perfect be the enemy of the good.
Yeah.
And so we're, again, risking a shutdown. We're probably going to have it again in the middle of an election. It's going to get blamed on us.
Yeah, because it's like the Republicans' fault and idea and desire. Just like the whole fake, like, manufactured crisis on the border.
It's not
it is manufactured crisis on the border. And not only is it manufactured crisis on the border, but then the solution that was put forth that was like a total gimme to Republicans was slammed down by Trump, and because he didn't want to have that be a win for Biden.
Yeah, it would be a win. It would be a win for Democrats. It would be a win for Biden
because nobody actually wants to solve the fake crisis that you've created.
No, it is not a fake. Border security is a serious national security issue. It is not a fake crisis.
It is a fake crisis because we do have security on the border. We do have border crossings. We do have people. What we don't have, and what the bill did provide, was additional people to process the asylum seekers, because we have an uptick in asylum seekers. Those folks right now are looking at a 2-year waiting period between when they cross the border and they actually get a hearing on whether or not they're legally allowed to be here. So, like, the system is broken. The system is broken. We can agree on that for sure. We do have a bunch of people that are coming in. We do have humanitarian issues, but it is not clearly a crisis, because if it were in fact a crisis, there are people who would be willing to act.
Now Joe Biden seems to be willing to act. He's willing to take executive action, which is what we've been asking him
to do. What?
Well, I don't know yet. That's what he's been talking about, so we don't know for yet. But apparently, he's thinking about considering.
And the president cannot shut down the border. No, but that was actually in the bill.
Be doing.
Yeah, you really don't want that much power in one person. Anyway.
We shouldn't. He definitely should not have that power. That's a very concerning.
One thing that Byron said on Meet the Press this morning that really got my goat was that Byron Donald said that. He just said, there's sex traffickers. There's women being sex trafficked across the border, and that's Joe Biden's fault. And let me tell you, that's completely wrong and false. It was just a way to get something that's really emotionally visceral for people and attack Joe Biden with it. Because here's actually what happens. The longer we wait on fixing the problem with the immigration system, the more that we have separated children and minors at the border, the more that we have refugees staying in Mexico, the more that we have people who are in this country without proper ability to work and things like that. Those people are the most vulnerable people in the world to human trafficking of all kinds, including sex trafficking. So if you really care about sex trafficking, you want to fix the border. You want to fix these problems, because that means that these folks are no longer vulnerable, right? And they're less vulnerable, and they're not going to be trafficked. This concept, and it's a real big thing that I fight against, because I teach about human trafficking in both my classes on American government and global studies, is that this concept that trafficking includes a border crossing. It does not. Okay. There is not a significantly large portion of the people who are being sex trafficked in this country who are physically coming across the southern border. Okay. That is not a big contributing factor. You can anecdotally say, yes, this may happen. Yes, there are people being smuggled into the United States by coyotes, which is a different form of human trafficking. Okay. But to say that explicitly we're pulling in people to be sex workers or to be exploited sexually in this country is not the case. We are actually exploiting tons of people here already. Like a lot of
not enough American homegrown sex slaves.
Ton, of American sex trafficking going on.
I don't want that to actually be clipped. But
it's true. I mean, like, it's just.
Well, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. Well, first off, again, I didn't get a chance to watch it, so but when it comes to human trafficking in general, it's a much more complicated issue. And again, this is why we need to have this bill passed, and why the stalling for political reasons is ridiculous, because again, these are, as Byron said, actual lives that are being affected. Because yes, it might not be a significant factor, but it is a factor, and there are people who are being smuggled in.
If you want to stop sex trafficking, start addressing the migration crisis around the world. Stop putting and allowing people to become in vulnerable situations. If you want to stop sex trafficking, start addressing poverty and instability around the world as well, because those are the major contributing factors to human trafficking, including sex trafficking. Those are facts. Hashtag facts. All right. Okay. So back to what we were talking about.
But yeah. So anyway, CPAC was essentially uneventful. I will just say it like that.
Well, Democrats were having a field day because Jack Proboscic, who's one of y'all's big guys, basically said, "Hey, guess what? We're gonna end democracy." And there was people who were cheering at CPAC
he did that for you guys.
Oh, he did that for you?
He did that
for
you
you
guys.
Keep unbelieving that. You keep in disbelief as there are people who are talking about becoming Christian fascists, becoming Christian nationalists. The entire Heritage Foundation Project 2025 has Christian nationalist undertones to it. So as long as there are people who are, let me say, good Republicans like you who believe that it's not possible, the more likely it's going to be.
So I'm not saying it's not possible, but if you actually listen to his speech, what he was saying was he was making fun of all of the stuff that Republicans have been criticizing Democrats on in terms of the judicial system. And so he's basically using all those same examples that he's essentially calling Democrats hypocrites. But you focused on the aspect
there was one part where
he
said, we're going to end democracy.
Yes, that's what you're focusing on. But the point that he was trying to make through his speech was that, hey, look at what I'm going to do, all these things that the Democrats are doing, basically saying that the Democrats are the one who are ending democracy. I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment. But that was the rhetoric that he was getting at. But you focused on, which is what he wanted you to focus on. It was bait. And you took the bait, which was we all want to end democracy, which I don't think is true.
It is true.
But I do agree with you.
Bathe in it, baby. Bathe in it.
Okay. So let's move on to South Carolina.
Project 2025 is talking about
Project 2025. I will
ripping apart the American institutions and putting in Donald Trump loyalists.
I have read Project 2025 and it is very concerning. I actually agree with you on that. I think that Project 2025 and this idea of creating this power centric on the executive institutionalized system that they're proposing, in which they're centralizing everything in the power of the president, is very concerning, and it is very authoritarian, and it is not something that should be implemented. I agree with you there. I absolutely agree with you there.
Okay, but I got a serious question for you on this. Okay, if you believe it's concerning, when was the last time there was a Republican presidency that didn't follow the blueprint of the Heritage Foundation?
They mostly do, yeah, and that's what's even the most concerning about it.
Ronald Reagan gave the entire plan of the Heritage Foundation to his staff and told them to implement it. So we're going all the way back to Ronald Reagan. Every president, every Republican president takes what the Heritage Foundation does, and because they're a think tank of scholars, they're conservative scholars,
they're policy wonks,
they're policy people, and so they put together, this is how we're going to do this, this is how we're going to achieve these goals, and they hand it over to the electorate, and they say, this is what we're going to do. So,
and they just implement.
I guess I'm just wondering, given that we're more than 40 years since the Republican presidency, and the last time we did not have a Republican president who did exactly what the Heritage Foundation wants, what makes you think that they're not going to implement Project 2025?
They probably will, which they shouldn't, but I don't, that's what it is. But again, this is why we have elections. Anyway.
That sounds like you're saying people should vote for Democrats.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That is new. Don't put words in my mouth. Do not put words in my mouth.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Anyway. I'm just going to drip my beer all over my face.
Anyway.
Because
speaking of these,
does not want a Republican president to follow Project 2025, even though every Republican since Reagan has followed what the Heritage Foundation says.
Well, we need a Republican president who thinks for themselves.
Wow. And instead, we have Trump.
Yes, right now.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the
South Carolina. Trump was the basically the presumptive nominee now. He's now swept all the first four states, kicked Nikki Haley in her own state.
God, that's embarrassing.
That is very 20 point lead. They called it
even like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio won their own states in 2016.
Rubio didn't.
Rubio didn't.
Trump beat Rubio, and Rubio dropped out.
Right. That was the thing.
That was what dropped him out. That's what caused him to drop out. Is Rubio was him losing Florida.
So it turns out nobody likes him even here.
No. But Nikki's staying in the race to basically continue to be the never Trump candidate, sort of.
But she says that she's not a never Trump candidate.
But she basically is. That's what she's saying. She's like, I'm staying in because there's
Trump
a people
to the United Nations.
That's the fun part about it, is she basically was a Trumpy until she wasn't. But anyway.
You know why she's not going to get out of the race?
because she thinks that Trump is going to
Has
get arrested.
nothing to do with philosophy.
Yeah, that's what everyone's.
She's got unlimited Koch dollars. That's why.
Yeah.
She's being funded by the Koch brothers, both basically because the Koch brothers, who had been, well, now there's only one of them left, but the Koch industries,
the Koch brother,
the Koch legacies, okay, but all of these various PACs and stuff who put millions and billions of dollars,
prosperity type people,
right? Yep, exactly.
With.
And they've been, big supporters of a lot of different libertarian and Republican conservative causes. Okay, they've decided that they don't want Trump to be president. That was like their thing back whenever they made that decision. Yeah. And so they are the biggest funders of the Nikki Haley campaign. That's why, even though she's summarily being beaten in every primary race that she's been in, including in Nevada, where they voted for no one instead of her, she doesn't feel compelled to drop out of the race because she's got unlimited funds.
Yeah, she does. Most people drop out when they're losing money, and so she's not losing money.
So why stop?
Drop out. I actually am going to support this third guy, Ryan Binkley. He's also running. He's the choice if you want a Republican who is not Trump or Nikki. I actually I do want to talk about this real quick though, because Ryan, I found out from him when I was at the Leadership Institute. I got a chance to meet Bradley, who was working on his campaign. And so he really turned me on to this guy. He's a pastor out in Texas. So very obviously an unknown candidate, very dark horse. But he's running a very compassionate campaign, very unifying campaign. One of the things I really liked that he put out there was the border security and dignity plan that he has, because I don't agree with you that the border security is not an issue. It is, but we need to address it both as a security issue and as a humanitarian issue. Okay. And he does this in his plan. And the reason I'm going to vote for him, first off, Florida's winner take all state when it comes to our primary. So Trump is going to win Florida. It doesn't really, my vote really doesn't matter if I don't want to vote for Trump. And I do want an alternative to Trump. There's things I like about Trump. There's things I don't like about Trump. But I do want an alternative. I want something else. And Ryan represents the type of Republicans I think we should be. A Republican who's very compassionate, a Republican who's very policy-oriented, a Republican who's someone who can bring a unifying message. And so that's why I am supporting and endorsing him. And we'll be wearing this hat from now on. So
he's giving an official endorsement.
I'm giving an official endorsement.
Ryan
Binkley.
It
seems like a dark horse candidate.
I was gonna say, put it a little bit closer because you can't see.
You can't really see it on the video.
Dark,
but that is who I am supporting.
And wait, so just so I can clarify here, he is a Republican primary contender.
He is a Republican.
Is he on the ballot in the state of Florida?
He is on the ballot in the state of Florida still.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he is still running. I thought he was dropping out after Nevada, but apparently he is still running, which I'm very excited for because he's a great candidate if you're someone like me who doesn't want Nikki but doesn't want Trump either. So finally, just a third candidate for you there.
Third candidate for you. God, I love your optimism sometimes.
I know. We love our dark horses here at Democrat and Republican walk into a bar.
Okay, so I do have a question. Some people have been floating to me or saying that they've heard. Do you think that Nikki Haley will put in a third party bid?
No.
No? Why? Why not?
I don't know. I don't think that's actually a good question. I actually have not thought of that.
I mean, listen, let's assume it like this.
I mean, Joe Manchin has already declined no labels, right?
Yeah, Joe Manchin's no labels, Cornel West. I don't think it's no labels. I mean, people are talking about like her doing a total third party, and if she's got unlimited, basically, Koch dollars.
No, see, here's the thing, though. If she does it, I don't think she does it on her own. I think that she could be courted by no labels to be the top Republican, and then they get a Democrat on the VP slot. And I think that's probably the direction they end up going, or she ends up going. I think that does create an option for her, and would be quite interesting because what she's been saying is that you have about 40% of the Republican electorate who are like, we don't want Trump, and you do have a large amount of people, a good portion of people who don't want either candidate. Question is will she pull? What will she do, and what effect will she have on that race?
Yeah.
And what does she become? Like, does she?
Yeah.
Obviously, she's going to have to move more to the middle to try to pull off Democrats if that's even possible. So
no,
it'll be an interesting.
We have 0.0% interest in Nikki Haley.
Yeah,
I'll tell
I
you
know.
that right now.
Yeah. So no, I think her only option if she wants to do a third party run will be a no labels ticket. But I think she's going to get. I think that she probably takes her declaration that she'll support the Republican nominee seriously. So I'm assuming she won it, but it would be an interesting wrench in the play. It would be.
I don't think she's going to do it. I think, my friend who was talking about it was kind of maybe thinking about it in a wishful thinking kind of way. But I was like, because to me, she's far too establishment. I mean, she's establishment.
That's just why she's perfect for no labels.
She's worked for the United Nations. She's, a governor. Like, I think for as much as she wants to be a spoiler of sorts right now and being this opposition to Trump, I don't think she has any desire to overthrow and buck the entire Republican Party.
Yeah, and she's basically at this point has completely destroyed her legacy and reputation within the Republican Party because of her staying in the race. At least with Ron, the reason that Ron DeSantis had to drop out of the race so early at the point when he had to is because he needed to do some reputational rehabilitation, and the only way he could do that was to drop out. Now he's on Trump's shortlist for VP. That was like a quick turnaround from Meatball Ron to now he's on the shortlist to VP. Okay, that was because he was smart.
Short road from Meatball Ron to top 6 VP pick.
Exactly. So he had to basically do that to save his behind. And basically rehabilitate his status within the party. Nikki is going to have a much harder time doing that because of her continuing to run and essentially, preventing the RNC from declaring Trump the presumptive nominee and moving forward with the general election, and just dragging this out and then like keeping the divides within the party.
Do you think she's going to stay after Super Tuesday?
I think if she wins at least one state, she does. She has to win at least one.
She's got to win at least one state?
I think she has to win at least one state to justify staying in the race. She has to win something. She has to show that she has enough pull that she can pull at least one state from Donald Trump. That's the big issue. She hasn't won anything yet. She hasn't even come close to winning anything yet.
No, not even.
And this is the problem. It's like, how can you, even when you're coming from the Koch side of things, like you're putting all this money investing into her for what? Like, what's your return on investment? Do you actually expect her to become the nominee? Or is it just you're just destroying Trump just to destroy Trump? It's the turd in
the punch bowl strategy.
No, apparently. I mean,
you don't want to do anything except for to be the turd in the punch bowl and make sure no one else wants to drink it.
Yeah, that's horrible.
I'm glad I put that imagery in your mind too. Yeah. But here's the thing. I don't give a shit if Nikki Haley stays in the race or not. Actually, Democrats love the fact that Nikki Haley is in the race because she gets to say all of these things and legitimize all of the points that Democrats have on Trump. So
basically,
Trump's Nikki.
Trump's getting attacked on two fronts. You're exactly right. Yeah. So yeah, she's doing all your heavy lifting for you.
Yeah. Thanks,
You're
Koch
loving
brothers.
it, I'm sure.
You're super awesome.
Yeah. Let's get that clipped all over. Cindy Banier, Doris loves the Koch brothers.
The Proboscis, what's his name? Proboscis, saying that he's going to end democracy. But hashtag just kidding. Okay. All right. So, okay, good. I think we've gotten the primary election under wraps here. Any other issues top of mind?
Not on the federal, but I think we should do some talking on the state legislature.
Let's go to the state.
Yeah.
All right. So where do you want to start with this flaming dumpster fire?
We got a few things that have been going on. The first is the RPOF had come up with a bunch of legislative agenda policies that Kathleen Passidomo, the state Senate president, shot down about like half of them. Those are the ones really relating to culture war issues. I'm not really, I like to call myself a conscientious objector to the culture war. I'm not really a big fan of it. But those culture war issues basically are dead on arrival in the Senate, and Kathleen Passidomo has established her independence from the party itself, which she can do since she is term limited and doesn't really have any need to get reelected. So she's like, you know what? I'm not going to do these culture war issues. That's not what we're going to focus on, which I'm okay with because, again, I'm not the biggest fan of these culture war issues. So good on her for stopping a lot of those. I think one of them was the monuments. The Confederate Monuments Protection Act that
was sponsored by Jonathan Martin.
Oh, Jonathan Martin.
That one?
I'm sure you. I figured you'd want to talk about that or something, but I guess.
Oh yeah, I didn't. It's been a long time since I thought about things that were important in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jonathan Martin was the
4 years
co-sponsor
too late, I guess. Yeah.
of the Confederate monuments thing, and it was basically like we got to preserve all these things, and then the state would have the power to remove any local, municipal, county level government person who supported the removal of Confederate monuments. Now, here's the thing: as far as I know, it's not dead.
Oh, I mean,
he's Senator Jonathan Martin, so it was introduced. It was in the committees.
I was led to understand that she was going to kill it, but okay.
I mean, it could be. I mean, I don't know where it is. I don't know if it's gotten much further out of committees, but
okay, so we'll see where that one goes. I think, but that's one of the big bills that everyone's watching, and then the other one, which I think passed both houses now and is going to the governor's desk, is the social media bill.
That's the one thing that's passed all the way through thus far. Yeah. Is the bill that made it so that 16 and under could not access social media.
Yeah, so that's an interesting bill. I think it's probably, well, first off, from my understanding, the bill actually does not prohibit full access. What it does is it prevents people under the age of 16 from signing the contract that sets up a social media account. So their parents would essentially have to set up their own social media accounts, which is a little bit different in wording than what's being promoted. And I'm personally in agreement with that type of style where, okay, if you're going to be on social media and you're under 16, you need your parents' permission. Obviously, I think that needs to be clear, and I do think that needs to be law. But at the same time, these are also future voters, and that we are about to piss off by saying, oh, you can't use TikTok if you're under 16 without your parents creating an account for you. So it does create an electoral situation that could be interesting, but it is something that I would personally agree with, but it doesn't look like Governor DeSantis is going to be supporting it.
Right.
It does look like he will possibly veto it.
Yeah, and that was interesting to me, and I don't know what grounds it was, something along the constitutional grounds and
stuff. There's some questions of constitutional grounds. He was talking about it on the parental rights aspect, though. This would be something parents should be involved in. This is not the job of the government to be making laws, and so he's going to weigh those options. So, but it does not look like
I just don't see how you monitor it, frankly.
Yeah, it's a very difficult. Yeah,
I mean, are you going to just make it so that every IP in the state of Florida has different rules? Then I don't know. I just think I don't care enough about social media.
It's also apparently these people never heard of VPNs. That's the
and
other part
I'm
of
just
it
like,
too.
And kids are gonna. It's like I just don't know. Like, okay, yeah, we should and some of it I heard like, oh, it's gonna stop. It's if they have addictive technology or something, and I just
which is something that is a serious issue that needs to be dealt with, but that's probably something that needs to be dealt with congressionally at a federal level.
I mean, doesn't it that affect everybody then?
It does affect everyone, but it's also, I think the issue with young people is it's when their brains and their cognitive functions are starting to develop and having that effect on that early on. I think that's where the focus on from the psychological and neurological side.
This feels like a bunch of horse shit to me all around. I know that a bunch of Democrats have come out and they agree with it, and because here's the thing. I mean, my oldest is 14. I don't know what we're talking about in terms of we're going to limit them, because here's the thing, they're not on Instagram, they're not on Twitter, they're not on Facebook. Maybe they're on TikTok.
Yeah.
But they're doing totally different things. Some of them use Snapchat, maybe.
Yeah.
Some of them use Discord, and they use chat lines in YouTube. And again, I just don't see how you actually implement this.
Yes, it'll be a very difficult thing to
have it matter. Not only just implement it, but have it matter. If you tell kids, oh my God, kids, you can't get an Instagram account, they're going to be like, who gives a shit? Because I don't use Instagram.
Yeah, it's going to be like the Barbara Streisand effect. You're going to tell you can't have this, so now we want it more. You're going to get more. You realize you're going to create
they don't
more
want to be anywhere that the old people are there. They have no desire. They have no desire to be on these social media.
That's what we need to do. All the parents need to get on Snapchat and TikTok and just ruin it.
Yeah, they don't.
You ruin it with Minion memes or something. I don't know.
Right. So anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
That one, I'm like, I got nothing. I don't know how this is going to matter. I'm actually more worried about the Confederate monuments one, and this is why. I mean, again, like the Confederate monuments is thing that we're like arguing about. It was 2020.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that I'm worried about is actually the part that says that local officials can be removed.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I can very easily see that becoming a way to oust electeds.
Yes, which I
and
don't
a way that the Tallahassee can say, oh, you made a post on social media against the Robert E. Lee statue. And no matter when it was, but you're against it, and we have a state law that says I can now remove you. I just feel like that one's ripe for abuse, and it's kind of like it's a Trojan horse thing.
And it's election interference, quite frankly, because you're interfering with the will of the people who they voted for. And as Republicans, from my understanding, we're against election interference. So let's not be in favor of election interference and removing people who we don't like. Through these type of laws, the same type of stuff. You know, we criticize Biden and the DOJ for doing all this to Trump. Let's not do the same thing. So that's my argument against it. But and in general, this really needs to be a local issue. Like it depends if the community wants certain statues or certain monuments there. That community needs to be the one who has the final say. It should not be supersede. It should not be an issue taken by the state or the federal.
I love home rule too.
Yeah, I'm a very big fan of home rule and local issues, unless it's for something that I'm really concerned about, like the food truck ordinance. Like I am very much for preempting the food truck ordinance, and I'm sorry it's hypocritical of me, but absolutely.
We'll say more about that.
So the food truck ordinance was the ordinance that was passed here in Cape Coral.
Okay.
That was excessive regulation on our food truck businesses.
Okay.
So it was what created the food truck parks, which I do think is a good thing, though I think it was a big giveaway to special interests, which is an entirely different conversation. But the main aspect of the food truck ordinance that they were debating for years, at least a year, but the food trucks have to move every single day. Now, originally they were debating, let's not do it every day, maybe every week, every month. Allow them, because the goal was to make sure they were still mobile in the event of a hurricane, and because they were food trucks, they were supposed to be mobile. But the thing is, you had a lot of food trucks like Cubamex over at Coralwood Center that's been there for quite some time. And they're actually our neighbors, but they were stationed and just kept their place right at that gas station and had an agreement with that business. So a private sector agreement, businesses making money, taking care of their family, protecting small businesses, things you'd think that this council would support, but instead they passed this very excessive regulation that hurt these food trucks and small business owners. So even though I'm a big fan of home rule, there's a part of me that really wants Jonathan Martin and Mike Gianlombardo, and I've asked them to pass a law to preempt this food truck ordinance.
But we don't need a preemption. We just need to get rid of these shitty city council members.
That's true too. We definitely need to replace this.
So many things that the people in the city of Cape Coral don't like.
They just don't
I don't think you need like a Tallahassee intervention for that.
Yeah.
I mean, but
you're right. Preferably,
you could get your representatives to come in and lay into those. But okay, so we are getting close to the time. But here's the thing: what other bills in Tallahassee are kind of like rising to the top for you?
The other one that I keep hearing about is the defamation bill that they're doing with media. It's
again, by the way, this is the same bill that.
And
this
is one you're getting conservative media against this too. Drew Steele and Brent, our and
Trey Radell,
and our good friend Brendan Leslie's very much against it because he doesn't want to get sued for defamation.
Our good friend Brendan.
Our good friend Brendan. But I think there's a. I think it's always, we want to make sure that the media tells the truth, but there's a fine line between being concerned about truthful media and violating freedom of speech and violating the accountability, the responsibility that media has of keeping public servants accountable. And that includes sometimes, making mistakes, which is what this is really all. This goes to the New York. It was New York Times versus Sullivan case. It's really what it's trying to challenge.
Okay.
So New York Times versus Sullivan is the case that sort of sets the standard for public officials and defamation, where they have to prove, if they're suing, that you have actual malice and knowingly did publish something that was untrue.
That was untrue. Okay.
And a part of this bill is that anonymous sources are assumed as can be assumed just out of the case as untrue. Like if you did not do your due diligence, which, having worked with, I've done that story with Sean Dow with 6 anonymous sources. And that was a major story that I could have gotten sued over if this law was in effect when I made that story. So it's concerning to me because anonymous sources don't necessarily mean they're untrue. It's just for whatever reason they want to protect their identity.
Right. Well, because there's massive retaliation,
of course,
when you're going against
when you're whistleblowing. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So this is really something that is politicians protecting their own.
I was going to say, do you think it's going to pass? Because again, it's very similar to the bill that came up in 2023, and it was conservative media led namely by a lot of the folks here in Southwest Florida, including former congressional representative Trey Radell, who's got his own conservative talk show here. They did kind of a last minute pitch and it died. So like, why is it up again? And do you think it's going to pass this time?
I don't think it's going to pass this time. I think conservative media is attacking it still again. They're going after it again. So I think it's going to die again. But I think he keeps bringing it up. I think what Andrew Andrade is the representative who keeps bringing it up. I think he's very passionate about this. I guess he must have been defamed at some point. Someone hurt his feelings, and he's like, no more. He's a representative out of Pensacola. So he's a state rep out of Pensacola. I guess one of the newspapers must have been mean to him, and he's all butthurt about it. And it's like, you know what?
So sad.
Now no one's going to defame anyone with anonymous sources. How about that? I don't know. But look,
yeah,
I don't know. I shouldn't say that. He could sue me for defamation.
I'm like, sue us. We have no money.
Yeah, sue us for the $0.
Go right ahead. You can have all the money in my bank account.
Yeah. All right.
So,
but yeah, no, that I don't think has a chance to.
So what I'm looking at though is, I've been obviously monitoring all the environmentally related bills. There's some good, there's some bad. Like there's a balloon release one. Okay, cool. The killing the bears. Thumbs down on killing bears. I
love bear meat. How am I supposed to get my?
No, you don't. But there's also all these.
It's finally our chance to get revenge on Yogi for all the times he stole our picnic baskets.
Yeah, what is being seen as like the stand your ground against bears. Like I didn't even realize this is an issue. Okay. But I'm more concerned about some of the other bills that are very squirrely that are going through a road home rule. There's a bunch that are targeting development. And so there's ones that has been sponsored by Anna Bohatana and again, Jonathan Martin, that reduces the size of the Estero Bay Aquatic Preserve. And that is 100% a giveaway to developers there. So that's a big deal. Tiffany Esposito is actually just got caught putting forth a bill that was sponsored and written completely by a developers association that streamlines. It's seen as like it's streamlined as like the permitting process, and actually it's putting a heck of a lot of additional regulations on municipalities and counties to process permits very quickly. But what it does that's really wild is that like if they don't process it in a certain amount of time, it automatically gets approved.
Oh God.
And so we're talking about complete destruction of the ability of local areas and locally elected officials to determine what gets built where. And if you can imagine, we have big booms in the state. Like if stuff is just getting greenlit without proper impact fees and stuff like that. It's so bad. And yeah, Esposito just got caught saying, "Oh, I never worked with that association." And then when they went back into the Word document that was used to craft the bill, it was originally written by like the executive director of that association.
Just edit the Word document. How stupid are these politicians sometimes?
Very stupid is the
Apparently,
answer.
wow.
But yeah, so it's kind of like, okay, so not only are you just handing it over to developers, you literally are letting them write the legislation.
That is crazy. And this idea, I can understand like, if they're not going fast enough, there's some sort of like compensation, but you don't give it to them outright. You
Yeah.
know, it still needs to go through the process and still needs to go through the elected officials and the zoning and all of the, you know, there's a system in place for a reason. And that's to protect our community, and it's to protect our natural resources in our community. So definitely against that. Yeah,
that's just a few.
Yeah, this is a few.
There's like the trans erasure bill, and like there's all these other culture war stuff that's like constantly rolled. But because,
which again, that think that Kathleen Pasadone was killing all.
I'm much more concerned about the ones that roll back home rule, that target local officials, that consolidate power to Tallahassee, because many of them are being overlooked because, you know, the culture war ones are really getting everybody worked up, right? So a lot of this stuff is just being like slid in.
Yes.
And I think ultimately it's going to be really bad for Florida, not just the environment.
It'll be bad for Florida communities. It'll be bad for our communities. And this is the problem that I think people need to realize. I mean, even here in Cape Coral, I think about like a lot of the arguments that were going on with Airbnb. A lot of the reasons we can't do anything about Airbnbs here in Cape Coral is because of the preemption stuff that the state does, and the state taking on these powers and essentially making our cities colonies of the state.
Yes.
So this is something that I agree with you is very concerning. We you know, there used to be a time when Republicans were very big on what was known as the principle of subsidiary, where we have states' rights and local rights, and the government that's close to you is the government that works best.
Yep.
And that's how it should
Public
be.
administration, we call that decentralization.
Yeah, decentralization.
And there's like plenty of literature around the world that shows that actually that's the most effective form of governance.
Effective.
Yeah.
It's very effective. So I'm a big supporter of that. Unless it's not to my benefit, but that's what's happening with these Republicans up here. That's why I'm a Republican. Anyway.
Well, I mean,
I have principles until my agenda is affected, and then I will move according to my agenda and not my principles. The GOP.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like this is not a partisan issue for me, frankly. It's a partisan tactic right now, because it's really being used very heavily by the GOP Republicans in Tallahassee,
because they're being bought off by
exactly. And that's, I think we can agree on that. Like let's not
we are
sell out our country, sell out our state.
We are very populist, both of us, in the sense that we do not believe that these special interests and these corporate interests should be the ones controlling our politicians. That's one of the things I've always admired about you, even before we started doing this podcast, that you were always big on calling out people in my own party who unfortunately take all these special interest money. So
I would love to see that end, because I think that it doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve us, right?
It does not.
Like if you have these folks and you don't even know, and I think that's the whole thing with
money.
Esposito getting caught essentially for lying that she had connections with it, and then finding out that she's literally hashing bills. I know, and it's like, wait a minute, why are we like allowing our legislation to be outsourced to special interests?
Well, it's also because, again, these people who we elect, they aren't professional legislators. They don't know how to write laws or make laws or do anything like that. So they depend on the expertise.
And why do we not have expert legislators?
Because at least in our party, we don't really like experts.
Oh, okay, that's fair. But the
I'm
reason,
just being honest. Let's just be real. I'm a truth teller.
That answer. But the reason that we don't have expert legislators is because we have term limits.
Oh, yeah.
Term limits mean that you have to have a constant stream of brand new people coming in the office, which, by the way, and I did this whole thing with my class, by the way, my class that I teach at the university here. And we did, our discussion this week was on term limits, right? And I said, listen, everybody likes the idea of term limits because everybody hates politicians, and everybody hates, like, they think that they suck in so many different ways. So the thought process is like, if we make it like, so they only have a certain amount of time, like we can limit the damage that they do. But what ends up happening is that
you lose the institutional knowledge.
You lose the institutional knowledge, and you shift the power to the special interests who can continuously fund green people to get to higher levels of office. And then all they do is they just hand them the legislation that they want to pass.
Yep. That's why, if you really want to be effective, you work for a think tank. Anyway, that's my goal. And why run for office? Why run for office? Run for a think tank and write the policies that they pass.
Shit, I mean, what have we already established that the Heritage Foundation has run every Republican administration since Reagan.
That's why I'm going for my MPP, baby.
Oh, Lord. Okay. Let's end there before I get like normal days. Thank you so much, Sean, our Republican co-host here, for joining us here today. And I have been your Democratic host, Dr. Cindy Banyai.
I'm your Republican host, Sean Hartman.
Yes, it's been great, and we will be back in another couple of weeks
yes.
Coming up, we'll get one in, I think, before Easter.
Yep.
And then we're probably going to have like some weird stuff going on between Easter and then the future fate of Ollie.
We're going to be figuring out from there, but yes. We'll probably take a bit of a break right after Easter while we figure that out, but we'll definitely have one more episode this month.
That's right. And so just a reminder, thank you so much for joining us here. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to have you become a sponsor of Big Mouth Media. You can find all of that information on our plans and pricing page at bigmouthmediafl.com. $4.99 a month is what it will cost to get you to subscribe to this episode. You'll get full-length videos and more coming up as Big Mouth Media grows. $19.99 a month, and you get all access to all of our shows right to your inbox, and you get the added satisfaction of helping independent media stay alive in this increasingly challenging environment in Florida and the United States abroad. So thank you so much.
No problem. Everyone,
We'll see you next
I don't
time.
know what happened there with my words.
Bye-bye.